President Wilson would at one time or another exhibit all of these symptoms. The blood clot hadn't burst, but no one knew what was next. As Dr. Durkham put it, he might live 5 minutes, 5 months, or 5 years. Grayson knew Wilson needed at least 6 weeks of complete rest. The New York Times reported, "All sorts of rumors have been running the gamut of gossip in the capital regarding the exact nature of the president's illness. One of the most insistent reports has had it that the president's real trouble has been a slight abscess of the brain." The Times reported that the president was very urgent that he be permitted to leave bed. The New York Herald picked up the story and reported that Wilson was restive and particularly anxious to see several Democratic senators. But then the Times ran a story on October 14th headlined, "Details of Illness Kept from Cabinet." Particularly illuminating was an interview with Attorney General Mitchell Palmer. When asked about the president's condition, he replied, "You read the newspaper, don't you?" "Don't you know any more than that?" "I do not," he said. "Does any cabinet member know any more about it than what he reads in the newspapers?" "No," Palmer answered. Wilson's guardians, Dr. Grayson and Edith, guarded the sick room and the truth about the condition of the man inside. Grayson directed all information away from Wilson. Under instructions from Admiral Grayson, all dispatches concerning the treaty situation and other public questions were withheld from the president. Dr. Grayson issued another bulletin. "The president is a very sick man. His condition is less favorable today, and he has remained in his bed throughout the day. After consultation with Dr. F.X. Durkham of Philadelphia, Dr. Sterling Ruffin, and Dr. E.R. Stitt of Washington, in which all agreed as to his condition, it was determined that absolute rest is essential for some time." Grayson would later say that he wanted to give a full accounting of Wilson's real situation, but in the view of the wishes of Mrs. Wilson, this was deferred. Ike Hoover, the president's valet, recorded in his diary, "Never was deception so universally practiced in the White House as it was in those statements being given out from time to time." The president's mind was not clear, as Grayson stated repeatedly. When Wilson was conscious, he had little ability to focus. Still, on October 15th, Grayson released another bulletin, this one announcing, "The president had a restless and uncomfortable day, but he is better tonight." From this bulletin, one might think that the president was suffering from nothing but a bit of insomnia. Edith, Grayson, and Secretary Tumulty, later to become Chief of Staff, came to believe in the policy of less is more. Grayson and Edith were Southerners and shared a distrust of journalists and an abhorrence of anything of a personal nature being released to the press. This was a time when a political figure's personal life was considered off-limits. At a meeting with journalists in 1914, President Wilson had entered the room and berated the assembled journalists for publishing disparaging stories about his ill wife and daughter. The president said that if he read another one, he would find the man who wrote it and thrash him. But there were leaks in the dam. On October 10th, the Associated Press painted a picture that contradicted the one coming from the second floor of the White House. The article speculated on constitutional succession, and Secretary Lansing felt compelled to deny a story claiming that another cabinet member was discussing the possibility of Vice President Marshall taking the reins of power. The New York Tribune wrote at the same time, "Democratic leaders are seriously discussing the possibility of Vice President Marshall assuming the duties of the presidency." For a month after the stroke, Edith Wilson's husband could do nothing but try to get better. He was unconscious the first week. The doctors began suggesting that Edith interview people for appointments and meet with senators and cabinet members. No one should disturb the president. Total rest was the order of the day. Edith and Grayson agreed on this, and as David Lawrence writes, "Together they carried the secrets of the sick room, while Private Secretary Tumulty played the role of everything as usual in the executive offices. But those were topsy-turvy days, and many an old friend who had served Mr. Wilson in the past was turned away."